Hi, I wanted to do another video that went a little bit more in depth from about the pre-op diet. And so I know that the other video I did, I just kind of glossed over everything, but I thought it would be helpful if I did something a little bit more in depth and talked a little bit about what I did. So when you sign up and you get approved to have surgery at Mexico Bariatric Center, where I got mine done, keep in mind that like absolutely every place is different. Even the gal that I work with that got the same surgery I did the day after I did, her pre-op was like 2 weeks of liquids. So it was not anything like the one that I did, which included food and getting about 1,000 to 1,200 calories a day. But even within like the one center that I went to, everybody's experience was slightly different. The guideline was very general, but what the nutritionist had them do was different for each person. So a nutritionist, once you're signed up and you reach the time frame that you need to start your diet, a nutritionist does reach out to you. Now, the reason that you do this diet is because, the word is that, you know, among people that are getting the surgery is that they're training you how to eat after surgery. But the main reason is because they want to shrink your liver. So when you go in to get surgery on your stomach, the liver is settled right on top of that stomach. And if you are overweight, you can have a fatty liver. What happens is that heavy liver, it's enlarged, it's fatty, it could be damaged during surgery, and if it's big enough or if it's in the way enough, it can really cause a lot of complications and the surgery might be canceled if your liver is too big. So you can't skip the pre-op diet. Like, you can't cheat on it, you can't skip it. There's very good reason for it. But beyond that, like, it does train you how to be better with your food post-surgery, because you're not going to be able to eat anything for a solid 2 weeks after. You have to be all full liquids and then purees. There's 4 phases to the post-op diet, which I'll do a whole other video on because it's complicated. But it's very restricted, and you cannot, and I'm going to tell you, like, I for real was tempted, like, after not eating for a certain amount of days, like, my mind was on food. So it was a real struggle and if I hadn't done the pre-op diet, I think it would have been a lot harder. But the first, so depending on what your BMI is, you will have a certain amount of weeks of pre-op diet. And the pre-op diet is, in very simple terms, it's no dairy, no caffeine, no sugar, low carb, moderate protein, and low fat. And so there's really not that much left to eat once you take all that stuff out. So it's going to be a lot of vegetables and a lot of lean meat, which is, you know, a pretty extreme diet, you know, as far as that's what you're supposed to do. And you're supposed to get 2 protein shakes a day. So the nutritionist contacts you about a week out from when you're supposed to start your diet and goes over that stuff with you if you have any questions. My nutritionist, Egg Shake, she contacted me by text, and it made it really easy because, like, if I had a question about something, I could just quickly text her. And she was really nice, and she was very helpful. Your protein shakes can't have dairy or even chocolate. Like, that was one of the hardest things, was that chocolate for me was, you know, pretty much the only shake flavor that I like. And because chocolate has caffeine, you're not allowed to have it. So it was vanilla shakes for me for the full 3 weeks that I did my diet. Now, my BMI was 46, so I had to do 3 weeks of pre-op diet, and then also 2 days of just clear liquids right before surgery. The reason that you can't have caffeine is because it is a diuretic, and caffeine specifically makes you dehydrated, because it makes you go to the bathroom, and so you lose more water. And so you need to stay hydrated the whole time, so they don't want you on caffeine before or after surgery. They also don't want you on carbonation, and let me tell you, when I say that I'm addicted to Diet Coke, or I was addicted to Diet Coke, I think I still am, but I haven't, I haven't had it for 6 weeks. But I was addicted. Like, I still now go to the convenience store and get ice water. But I was so addicted. I'm still addicted to the habit of doing that. It's like comforting for me. I just can't get Diet Coke or any fountain sodas or anything like that. And Coke Zero was like my favorite thing in the whole world. And I could get through anything if I could have Coke Zero. But the carbonation it expands your stomach and makes you hungrier. And then the caffeine is a diuretic and dehydrates you. So those are 2 reasons they don't want you to have carbonation or caffeine. You're also not to have any starchy vegetables, and you're limited on sugar. So no potatoes, no corn, anything that's like a starch vegetable. And then for fruits, they said we could have a half a cup of berries and or a half a banana. We could add them to our shakes. But that was it. And I eat oranges all the time, so I was like, oranges? And she was like, no. But she said I could have apples. So basically low glycemic fruits, but only half a cup. So it was very restricted, even on natural sugars. The other hard thing was no dairy. Every diet I've done in the past, like keto or Atkins, included dairy, and it's a pretty big staple in my diet. So taking out cheese and yogurt and those kind of things, that was really hard. But dairy is an inflammatory, so it also inflames your liver, and anything else that it could inflame could cause complications in surgery. So that had to be removed as well. That means that in your shakes, you couldn't add milk. You had to add something like almond milk or coconut milk. Those things were okay, but anything dairy was totally out, and it had too much sugar as well. They also wanted you to get as much protein as you could from actual food and not just the protein shakes. So you wanted to have 2 protein shakes a day and at least get like 20 grams of protein in each shake. But also they wanted you to have 2 servings of lean meats. So chicken, turkey, lean ground beef, those were all acceptable forms of protein, eggs, that kind of stuff. They gave you a recommendation to eat what was called magic soup, which I did make and actually really liked it. It was cabbage and zucchini, squash, onion, what else? Kidney beans, and I added mushrooms to mine because I like mushrooms. The recipe's on the website. It's fantastic. It's actually a really good soup. And it was in a chicken broth with like a tomato base within it, and you just cooked it up, made a big batch of it. My husband and my daughter ate it. It was really good, actually. It was kind of like minestrone soup, but without, I guess pretty much the same as minestrone soup, except it had cabbage. So very filling and made me feel really, really good. So actually we'll continue to eat that because it was pretty tasty and very, very low calorie. So you could just eat it and eat it and eat it and not hit your calorie limit. And that was nice because when you're trying to get off addiction to food, it was like not having something like magic soup to just snack on was excellent. And the vegetables were cooked really well, but tasted really good, so had the soup flavor. So I highly recommend the magic soup. Give that a shot. And you couldn't have drugs or alcohol. So both those things could cause serious complications in surgery. For instance, alcohol is a blood thinner and the drugs are blood thinners, and if it could prevent you from having surgery. You could get down there and there'd be a problem. So all that stuff had to be discontinued. So no marijuana, no THC. If you were planning on doing those things, don't do those things. Because I had heard some kind of terrible stories. I'm not going to go over them because I feel like it's like a lot of this stuff is really scary versus being helpful. And I think it's pretty clear. It's like, just don't do it. One of the hard ones probably for a lot of people is that you had to stop smoking for 2 months prior. So they recommended, 2 different medications to help you get off smoking, but you could not smoke for 2 months prior to surgery. It could cause severe complications with your lungs in surgery. I talk about this in another video, but vitamins. So I bought all my vitamins before surgery. Like as soon as I knew I was having surgery or I was going to do this, I went ahead and bought all of my vitamins and I was like all ready to use them. But I actually had surgery pretty quick after I booked it. And so I found out that I couldn't take any of them. Some of the vitamins could be thinners, like, and that includes supplements like garlic pills and ginger pills. You know, they are blood thinners as well, so they could cause surgical complications. So I had to discontinue any use of those. Also collagen protein, I couldn't do that either. So that was considered a supplement. So you have to discontinue all supplements and vitamins 2 weeks prior to surgery. Another big one was that they didn't want you to be on birth control for 2 weeks prior to surgery. And also medications in general, like they wanted you to get in contact with them to let them know what medications you were on, if you were taking anything, like if you were diabetic, because some would cause surgical complications and they needed to be discontinued, but not if it wasn't safe. So each one had to be, you know, specifically identified and discussed with your doctor, and then a plan put in place for how you were going to discontinue them, if discontinue them at all. But medications, you know, were, you know, side effects could possibly hurt you when you're in surgery. So that's something you have to discuss with your doctor, and you're going to have to figure out, you know, individually what that plan is. Another one that we had to really practice prior to surgery was eating very slow, very small amounts, and getting used to doing that, and chewing things really, really good. They recommended you chew things like 25 times. I chewed things like 50 times. Now I chew things like 75 times because I could cause obstructions in my stomach, and if you know, like when you're really hungry, you just start gobbling things up, and you could cause that problem, and it causes pain or vomiting, and it could be potentially dangerous for your stomach. So practicing it beforehand was pretty essential to getting ready for the post-op diet. They also told us that we could not drink for 30 minutes prior to eating and 30 minutes after eating. The water would fill our stomach, or you know, whatever you're drinking, fill your stomach, make you feel fuller. You wouldn't get your nutrients that you needed. And so even now, I'm not supposed to drink during eating or before or after, and it kind of sucks, and it's one of the bigger things that's hard to deal with after surgery. But I mean, it's not anything I'm gonna have like a really, really hard time getting over. It's just, it's so habitual. I mean, my entire life I've drank something with food. So but you know, they'll let you know that you have to do it before. It's just practice for the after, and I would recommend doing it because I don't think I did it very well before, and I'm really struggling now with it. So I think it might have helped me better if I had done it before. Now, 2 days prior to surgery, you start the clear liquid diet. The difference between clear liquids and full liquids is that clear, you can stick your spoon into the liquid and pull it out, and everything would drain off. It's not necessarily that you have to see through it or anything like that. It's just that it needed to all drain off. So you could have protein shakes, but full liquids or thick liquids was more, you would stick your spoon into the liquid and pull it out, and your spoon would be covered. So I'm sorry, I messed up. You cannot drink protein shakes on clear liquids. Clear liquids is very limited. It's very clear. It's water. It's juices severely watered down, at least 50%, like low sugar juices watered down. Gatorade Zero, Powerade Zero, Crystal Light, those were all fine. And then clear broths like beef, chicken, or vegetable. And then sugar-free popsicles and sugar-free Jell-O. That's it. You can't have anything else for the 2 days prior to surgery. You got to clear out your system. Now, there's a whole lot of talk on the groups about last meals, and it's not necessarily Mexico Bariatric. I'm on a few groups, and people talk about last meals, and they told us when we were in the surgery center during pre-op consultation and getting our stuff all done, all our paperwork, they were like, and I had heard this from someone else, that I could go that night to a Mexican restaurant and have a bowl of broth at a Mexican restaurant. It would be really good, and they warned us against that. They said do not go. Like the hotel provides the broth. Like I just need to go to the kitchen and ask for broth or popsicles or Jello, whatever I wanted that night. But I could not have the oily broths that were served at the local restaurants because they were too heavy and they would be in my stomach. And they were like, you may not know that you have this problem, like that you have, you know, food in your stomach or the oil in your stomach or your intestines, but the doctors will know, and it's really gross, and you know, you could yourself. And yeah, that was enough for me. I didn't need any more encouragement after that not to go to the restaurants. I have no interest in crapping myself, and I have no interest in them having an issue having to deal with that while doing surgery on me. Like, just not interested. And I will be totally honest and tell you that after I was wheeled into my room post-surgery, I started walking about 3 to 6 hours later. I can't remember, it was all so blurry, but I watched a lot of people being wheeled into their rooms, and can I tell you, like, after they were placed on their beds, there were like gauze drapings that were still on the table of the bed that they were going to roll away back to the surgical center and in the OR, and they were covered in like a yellow greenish poo, and it was so gross. I'm so happy that didn't happen to me, but I did wake up with gauze between my legs, and it was clean, thank God. But you know, I got up and checked myself because I was like, no, please, no, God, I don't want that for me. But yeah, don't do it. And that, I mean, it goes without saying that a last meal is totally not an option, because in some places they're talking about, you know, as long as you eat by 6 p.m. and don't eat anything else after that before the day before surgery, you'll be fine. You can have a big last meal and enjoy yourself. No, don't do it. Don't do it. It's not okay. They've made it very clear that that was not okay. So I don't recommend that at all. So overall, I would say that the pre-op diet and then the 2 phases of post-op diet are the most extreme parts of this surgery. So depending on what your BMI is, that will determine how long you have to be on these diets. If it's really high, it could be up to 6 weeks on the diet. But the bonus is that you start losing weight already before you even go to surgery, and you significantly reduce your chance of any complications or being denied for surgery, because your liver is given the time to shrink. And I highly recommend looking up the 7-day liver shrink diet, because it gives a lot of information. It is very extreme, but it is very helpful to get ready for this surgery. It is not anything that you would do long term, but it's definitely something that you should do to be ready for the surgery and to ensure the best outcome for yourself. So make the right choices. I know this is hard, and I know that in the United States, like, to get this surgery, you have to do so much more, you know, a year's worth of counseling and nutrition and dieting before you're approved to be able to get this surgery. And that's if you have a high enough BMI. So overall, I think that it's nice that Mexico, surgery centers in Mexico are not requiring that of us for us to jump through all those hoops. But on another level, you need to be prepared to be able to take the steps that are necessary before you have this diet or before you have this surgery, and to be prepared to correct the steps. I heard this horrible story of a woman dying after surgery in Mexico because she ate too much at the airport on her way home. She actually had food and her brand new cut open stomach that's not healed yet. I mean, and that's an awful thing. I hope that didn't actually happen. It's one of those rumor things that just goes around the mill, but I feel for her family if that really did happen. But psychologically, you're going to have to be prepared to walk through an airport and not be able to eat any of the food that's in the airport. And when I say that was a challenge for me, and I followed my diet. So be ready for these obstacles and challenges, because they're there for your benefit, But sometimes, and I know that we all go through this, we don't always do things to our benefit. So prepare yourself, be ready, and good luck. I honestly thought I was done with this video, but I need to add that these are the approved foods list, and it's straight from the website from the center that I got my surgery done. So this is from Mexico Bariatric Center, and I'll link it in the comments. But these are the foods that are approved for the pre-op diet, except for the 2-day all clear liquids diet. So these are the foods that you can have in the weeks upcoming to the 2-day liquid diet.